Hello everyone, welcome back to one more video. Today I wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking a little bit lately with everything that's happening in the world of comics. Listen to what people say and all the comments and everything for all the pro industry and all the people that follow this medium, the medium of the comics, whether it's in actual print or in animation or in movies. And I'm starting to wonder about if the problem with the industry right now is the poor or the lack of the fan base. And I'm talking about the new fan base, or their supposed fan base, I guess. I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about everybody, but like evolution, the newer generations of fans seems to have the love for the medium or the love for the comic books in the wrong place. And why do I say that? Well, one of the reasons that I say about that is a couple of reasons. One, for those who follow the media in terms of comics, you probably are aware of a big noise that happened with the latest number of Darth Vader, of the series of Darth Vader. Now, I originally started buying the first Darth Vader series when Marvel came out. It was really good, and all of a sudden I decided to stop. Same with Star Wars, because the story is starting to decline to my liking, and the price were too steep. It wasn't really worth for me to keep buying those series, so I stopped buying it. But there was a lot of noise and a lot of outrage, if you want to call it, from people who complain about how, a little bit of spoilers, and if you don't mind, probably it's not a spoiler if you read the news, but basically Darth Vader stabbed with his lightsaber a stalker, or a staff that was supposedly in love with Darth Vader. Now, a lot of people were in their outrage. They were saying that, oh, that's a mistreated of women, that they're supposed to be not treated like that, or that the fact that Darth Vader went after, killed this person, he called Bridge and said, hey, come and pick up this garbage out of my quarters. Now, I mean, in all honesty, I've been a fan from Star Wars for long years. I mean, obviously, I wasn't born when the first Star Wars came out. The first movie that I went to see was Return of the Jedi back in 82, I think, originally. So I've been a fan from Star Wars for the longest time. I've seen Clone Wars, Rebels. I haven't seen the last animation series because I think it's poorly written, poorly animated, very bad characters. But anyways, putting that aside. So, to be honest, if you are really a fan of Star Wars, the fact of how Darth Vader behaved towards this character, whether it was a woman or whether it was a man, I mean, right now everybody's screaming because it was a woman. If it wasn't a man, they probably wouldn't say anything. But the reality is whether it was a woman or whether it was a man, the way that Darth Vader behaved and killed her, to me, it's okay. It's within the character. And it seems people forget, or maybe they don't realize, or they don't know that, and this is canon, that when Darth Vader, when Anakin Skywalker first became Darth Vader, he went to the Jedi Temple and killed hundreds of Jedis, potential Jedis, and even kids. For those who forget, I believe it is called The Revenge of the Sith, it's episode 3. That's what Darth Vader did. He killed lots of kids. And people seem to forget that happened. People seem to forget how Darth Vader is, how he didn't thought twice in torturing Princess Leia to take out information out of her. So in reality, the character is fine. That behavior was fine. I mean, nobody says about how freaky was that this female character was obsessed with that Vader, if you like, how she was obsessed about it. Nobody talks about that. They just talk about how bad Darth Vader treated her and killing her. But the reality is that's how the character is. If you know the story, if you go back to the origin and how Darth Vader become Darth Vader, that is within the character. Something that comes into my mind is Kill Bill from Quentin Tarantino. Very famous movie, an amazing movie, one of my top 10 movies led by a female character. But one thing that we seem to forget, and this is also a spoiler, and something that clicked to me, and it comes into play with this, what happened with Darth Vader, is because, I mean, I don't recall the whole dialogue of the movie, but when Beatrix Kiddo faces with Bill at the end of the second part of the movie, I believe she asked why he did that. For those who have seen the movie, again, another spoiler maybe, but it's too old that I won't care, is basically Bill found Beatrix Kiddo, went into the day of her wedding and shoot everybody up. And then she asked why. And to summarize everything, Bill, or the character from David Carradine, great actor, he basically summarized everything saying, I'm a bad guy. I kill people for a living. How would you expect me to react? Finding out that first she pretended to be dead, finding that she was alive, that she was already going to marry another guy, and that she was carrying his baby. So a killer, a professional killer, how would people think that it will react? Obviously, he just went and killed her. So to me, that's within the character. Brutal the way that he killed her, probably, but still everything within part of the story. And that's what people, or that's why fans now, or the so-called fans, don't realize. Plus, the other thing that they're trying to do is they're trying to project society into a science fiction story. It's all well and done when you're basing a movie or a book or something about real life. And even those movies have some embellishment within them. They don't talk the story 100% as how that happened. Sometimes they make it more dramatic or more fantastic or more adventurous, depending of the writer. And people tend to forget that the world of the comic books, the world of the movies, it's a fantasy world. It's not real life. One of the reasons why I love superheroes is not because they look like me. It's because what they did, the stories that they encounter, and how fantastic I found how they were able to solve those problems. Yes, I love the fact that there was a little bit of part of the real life. It make feel the comic book a little bit down to earth. Like, for example, Peter Parker. He had problems with work, paying rent, money, love, and on top of that, he had to deal with being Spider-Man. So yes, it's okay to introduce something from real life on it. It makes the stories make a little bit credible, but not all of them, and especially not superheroes. Especially not superheroes. So what new so-called fans now are trying to do is they try to see them reflected in the comic books, and that's not the idea of the comic book. The comic book it's a fantastic world where someone can fly, can shoot beams out of their eyes, can read minds, can phase through worlds, surf through the space, get claws out of their hands, indestructible body. I mean, everything. So they are trying to project the problems or the lack of identification or of the lack of believing oneself in the real world into the comics and into the movies. And unfortunately, to me, that's not possible, or I don't like it. And the reason that being is because then at that point, comic books stop being fantastic, amazing, adventurers. The superheroes stop being superheroes. They're worried more about their self-existence and their self-moral problems than actually fighting the bad guys, or struggling with their powers and learning how to use them, and the accidents that they can cause, or all the fantastic things that they can do. So I think right now we're facing a problem with the fan base. New fans doesn't seem to care about the past. To me, if I found a character that I like, then I like to read stories from the past. I like to go and read backstories, back issues, find out more about the character. And unfortunately, many of the new characters that are coming out with all that self-proclaimed identification with real life, they're too young, their roots are poor, they're not really well based, or they're not as fantastic as the old characters that we know. So what these fans do, they want that the old characters that have years of existence behave like those new characters. And they don't care. They don't care of reading, of teaching themselves about that character. Case in point, they became gay. Bobby Drake, Iceman. I'm not against that. I have no problems with creating gay characters. In fact, there was a North Star, I think it was called. I can't remember. From Alpha Flight, which was the first gay Marvel character. I love Black Panther. I love it. He's one of my favorite characters. My daughter loves Black Panther. In fact, one of her birthdays was Black Panther. We made a Black Panther for a 5-year-old girl birthday. So that's not the problem. The problem is that new fans or so-called fans, they trying to put their ideals on life back into the comic books and the characters that are being there from years. And people like me and like many other collectors that we like, that we know the story from when it begins, we don't like that. That's what think it's bad. Even new writers before, you were given a book, you were given a great big book like X-Men, like Superman, like Batman, like Captain America. You were given a book until you were a solid writer. And right now they give the books to anyone, literally anyone. You look like the character, here, go and write it. And we know that doesn't end well. So it's very easy for anyone to just start writing books, and that's why they're so bad. And the problem with newer writers is that they don't know very well the story behind the books or the characters that they're writing. Another case in point, a friend of mine made a review, Comic Book Man. For those who speak Spanish, recommend the channel. He made a review about a number on Captain America of the recent series, where Captain America told Bucky to kill as many terrorists as he can. And somebody asked in the comments, and he says, why is it bad for Captain America to kill? Now, the question is not why is it bad for Captain America to kill. The question is why Captain America didn't do everything possible in the power to avoid getting into that point. He went to war, he defended both ends, both sides. He's always been, do whatever you can to avoid as much conflict as possible. Killing is not his first option. Leave that to Punisher. Killing is not his first option. And in this book, that's what they did. So that's really off character. And the fact that people ask that makes me think that they didn't went in and find out more about the old stories of the character. Another example that I think is good is Mark Hamill put on Twitter a picture of him and the whole gang, Han Solo, Leia, Lando Calrissian, and Chewbacca, with a comment about missing that, how amazing would have been having them together. And then a lot of people attack him, thinking that he was offended the new characters and new stories. And the reality is that's not the point. It's not about him saying that the new stories are bad, which to me they're not that great. Realistically speaking, they're not that great. The characters are not that strong. I mean, you have, and it's not because she's a female, but you have a young Jedi who is stronger or as strong as Luke Skywalker when she hasn't had zero training. Now, for that, I'd rather have to see Ahsoka Tano there. She would have been an amazing character for the movies. In fact, I would love to see a movie with her on it as a primary character. Or Sabine from Rebels. I would love to see a movie there with that character as the main character. I would love her to have been part of the Rogue One, but unfortunately, it wouldn't go with the timeline, I think. But anyways, so, and people, new fans, they got immediately offended, and the reality is that there wasn't nothing to be offended of. You like the new stuff, okay, perfect. Don't go and complain or criticize people who like the old stuff. Everybody grow in different times and different eras. Everybody enjoy different movies at different times. So if if you don't like it, then just don't go and fight it. Or if you're saying that a character is off its own character, find out first the story behind that character and why he did that. Was it true that it was off character? Okay, then in that case, by all means, go ahead and raise your voice. But if that's not the case, then don't come and say it. And also, there was a lot of people that they think that just by watching the movies of the Avengers, they know about the story, they know about the Infinity Gauntlet, and that's not the case. They don't care. They haven't read Infinity Gauntlet, they haven't read Infinity Watch, and all the stories that are surrounding to it. So they don't know the real origin of Thanos, and all they know is the characters they see in the movies. So they call themselves fans of the character, but the reality is they're just fans of the character from the movie and how it was depicted in the movie. When comic book fans that know the character and love it talk about how it was portrayed, they immediately get offended by it, and they say that that's not true. But the reality is because the lack of their knowledge of the origins of the character is what is affecting the whole media. So that's why, to me, one of the main problems right now is not the fact that, well, it is the fact that Marvel is hiring anyone to do the characters. It is the fact that writers and pencilers or artists are trying to put their personal agendas, their personal ideals, identifications, and whatnot in a comic book, in their comic books and their stories. And the reality is, I buy a comic book of how super it is. And I mean, I know Thor, and I don't want Thor to look like me. I love the way that Thor looks. So why am I going to complain? I look at the book because of how amazing it is. I love the stories. I love the characters. I don't want the real life. I already have enough of the real life in my own life to go in and look for the same in a comic book, especially a superhero comic book. You have drama comic books, you have suspense, thriller, sci-fi, everything. But the last thing that I want to see is a bunch of problems from real life in the book. It's the comic books are escape of the mind to enjoy and being brought to other worlds. And if I'm talking about a character, I first want to read upon it. Shazam. I love the movie of Shazam. I don't know much about the character. That's why I don't really make too much comments about it. That's why I want to read more. And Nowadays, I mean, back in the day, it was really hard to find out. You have to look for a trade paperback, and if there was no comic book store around your area, good luck finding the stories from the past. Right now, there's tons of trade paperbacks. The electronic media, the internet, gives you a lot of resources for a lot of those movies. Even though I don't like digital comics, I prefer to buy them. I have read some books digitally because it's very hard for me to find them in an actual hard copy, or I don't really have the money to pay $30 for a trade paperback for 4 or 5 books. Excuse me. So that's why the problem right now is with the fan base. There's really no fan base, or very lack of fan base. Because if you are a true fan, if you really enjoy the stories, the characters, and everything that involves about it, you will read about it. You will increase your knowledge about the character. And if people is a true fan and does that, then we wouldn't be having all these problems that we see in the media. Really. I mean, why do I care? I mean, I know about the story of the comic books. I love them. They're my life. I enjoy them. I mean, my family is my life, of course. But comic books are a small little escape that I love. I love the characters. I mean, if Marvel comes and says, hey, we have a character that he has poor hair, wears glasses, and he just looks just like you. We want you to write it. We think it's perfect for you. I would say no. I would say thank you, but no. I mean, absolutely not. I know nothing about the character. I know nothing about the story. I'm not a writer. And so the reality is no. If I want to write a comic book, the last thing that I will do is make a character to look like myself. Why would I want that? I want a character that can travel through space, that has a magic ring. I don't know, that can turn everything in gold. That would be cool. Shoot beams from my eyes, fire from my breath, have wings to fly. The last thing I want is that, something that looks like me. That's why I love so much comic books. And I think the problem now is the fan base. Or one of the biggest problems is the fan base. The editorials have a problem. Not hiring the right people for the job. Not hiring the right people to look upon their characters and make sure that if somebody is deviating of what the character will do, that they will pull it back and say, hey, no. I mean, yes, we don't want to go back to the world where the writers and the artists didn't have enough loose hand to do what they think it was best for the character, and it was just no, you got to do this and this and this and this. That's why Todd McFarlane left Marvel. That's why Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Rob Liefeld, Jim Valentino, Will Sportacio, that's when all those guys decided to make their own stories where they could say what is and what is not without too much constraint. Now, too much loose, it's also not good. You gotta have a balance, and it's sometimes it's hard to find the balance. But if the people who is in charge don't know about the characters, don't know about the whole history of the characters, and they just scared to make a world in the comic books that looks exactly like the world in the real life, then that's when we have all these problems. And when the fans that are supposed to be fighting for the characters and for something more fantastic and more heroic, and all they want is just real life, then I'm sorry, but no. If I want a real life, I just go to the newspapers. Really. I just watch the TV and the news. So I want fantastic stories. I want superhero stories, heroic stories with fantastic powers and adventures and everything on them. That's why I think that if someone really calls themselves a comic book fan, you should go and take some time to read the stories from the past. You may not enjoy them, you may not like them, but you will learn about them, and you will learn to identify how the character was. If all the people that are fans of Captain Marvel will go and read the Ms. Marvel original miniseries, the stories that she had in the Avengers. They will know that that character was never like that. It was never like that. So I think I said enough. I think I talk a lot today. And anyways, tell me what you think. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. I really would like to hear. So whoever watched this video, I really would like to think you think the same about me. That the new so-called fans are not really fans that care about the past and the stories from the characters. That all they care is what they see, and then they want to see the real life in them. So to me, that's not comic books. That's not what the comic books are, or that's not what the comic books are for. Anyway, take care, guys. Chill. Up until next time.